Let me pull that up, guys. So we have, let's go to Leonarda.
Sure.
You're a former feminist.
Correct.
And now you're a current anti-feminist?
I don't know. I'm a hardcore conspiracy theorist, and I realize the truth about a lot of propaganda that's being fed both to feminists and the red pill male community, which is the male version of feminism. And then I see the repercussions of that on women, even here, right? Because they teach them a lot of BS.
Yeah.
Who's they?
Women's studies departments.
Like the feminists.
Well, I think communists have taken over our whole system. I think they've taken over the university system. They've taken over the media for sure. They push promiscuity, degeneracy as liberation, and the only ones who benefit off of women freely giving away sex are deadbeat guys who do not want to give you anything. They just want to take. So
yes, let's
your
go.
guy in the car is a verifiable loser who will probably never do anything with his life, will continue to grift on women. He was hanging around because he had a free ride with you, and he gave you just enough to keep you interested. I've known these men in my life. I've seen it for women. And I try to do my best to tell young women that they're under the thumb of oppression, even though it's being presented to them as liberation.
Yes. Let's go. That was great. Oh, you're not all supposed to agree. You're supposed to fight with us.
Well, I think you disagree.
She will fight with us.
I do disagree. Not with the premise. I would agree with everything you said about this guy, although you are 19 years old, and I feel like that's just a classic 19-year-old experience. I don't know what that has to do with feminism.
It's a classic. Well, I'll tell you right now. It's a
Grid One Motorsports donated $200. Mrs. Wilson, F the haters. You won't want any explanations, and your haters will never believe you anyway. Your actions speak louder than any words they can scream. Blessing to you and Andrew.
Thank you, Grid One. Appreciate you, man.
Good to see you in the chat, Grid One. Go ahead with your point.
So what that has to do with feminism, first of all, it's not a common 19-year-old experience. It's presented as a common 19-year-old experience, and it's relatively new in our modern age, and you really want to say probably since the mid-90s, early 2000s, and that's really when this whole promiscuity with women's been pushed. Second of all, the reason it has to do with feminism is because feminism teaches women that having casual sex with a man is within their scope of being equal and on par with men, and by being that way, they are liberated and empowered, which is total BS. Whereas women have known for centuries that their sex was of huge value and would demand something in return for that would actually show them their worth.
Yes.
So that's exactly what it has to do with feminism.
I don't think that I have ever heard that from... When did you graduate college? Like what year?
2012.
Okay, so it's been a while since you've been in college, so I'm not sure.
Correct. I didn't have this in my college education, by the way. I went to a Jesuit university that was pretty fantastic and did not give me this BS.
I was going to say, I'm currently in college for a little bit too long, and I have never heard any of this from any professors. I've never heard any of this from my peers.
Heard what exactly?
That casual sex is empowering, and
you don't watch TV, you don't see it on social media, you don't hear it in the music, you don't hear Cardi B and what's her face being like my wet ass pussy.
I'll give you Cardi B, maybe music, maybe like rap music.
I mean, that's the culture. What is that reflective of? The fact that that's in the mainstream means it's been accepted by people. They could have never put that on TV.
I mean, women
40
were
years
accepting
ago.
Pretty brutal treatment from men pre-feminism. Would you?
Oh,
agree
we
with
can
that?
get into that.
I'm sure we can. My parents are old. My parents are 65 and 75. I know what was happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like
from the perspective of your two parents, you're going to generalize to the whole population.
My parents have friends. I mean, are you going to generalize the population from her experience with a bum?
No, not at all. I'm generalizing from reading.
I also read. I am currently in college, and I'm telling you that no one I know who's a soc major, I don't know any feminist studies majors, but none of them are hearing this. I've never encountered a communist professor.
Let's say they're not. Are your friends engaging in casual hookups?
No, not my friends.
Not your friends, but are women on campus engaging in casual hookups?
Undoubtedly, and they were also doing that in the 90s, 80s, 70s, even the 60s and the 50s.
You're talking about the sexual revolution, right?
Me?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is when the sexual revolution was happening,
Yeah.
right? So I'm talking pre-feminism. Do you know when feminism started?
Do I know like there is no?
No,
like,
you don't have to
set
know the
point
date,
that
but
feminism
around the
started,
time.
But I mean,
Let's
like we.
go ahead.
I was gonna say like, I would say like as an actual political movement, probably like the early 1900s, late 1800s. But I think
So
that
you're
those
talking about
ideas
with the
were-
right to vote? Yes.
No, not just that, but I mean like having a sort of like political consciousness that women are lacking something politically, and like trying to think what was like John Adams' wife, Don't Forget the Ladies, like that kind of stuff has been around for a long time.
Right. And this sexual push to make women be more promiscuous, do you know when that really started?
I mean, if we're talking about like the sexual revolution, I would say probably late 60s, 70s.
Right. So that would be the whole time period that you were saying that women were engaging in casual
Well, no,
hookups.
women were engaging in casual sex before the sexual revolution. I think that the push was more to normalize it. And I'm not saying that I think that it's a good thing. I really don't. But
You don't see the connection to feminism with that. That's what you're saying.
Obviously the sexual revolution is connected to feminism. I'm
No,
saying
no.
that casual sex was happening before that.
Right, but you
Not
don't
on a mass scale.
You don't
like
see
it
the
is now.
push between casual sex and women. I mean, there is a low consciousness among women these days about what they can command in exchange with a man. It's incredible.
I would agree with that, honestly. I see your point there. I think that women accept subpar treatment constantly, but I don't think it's feminism.
I think it's 100% the consequence of feminism, which is ironic, but again, I think we live in a satanic world that presents everything upside down from the opposite of what it is. So they present to you feminism as your liberation and your empowerment, and it ends up doing the exact opposite.
Just curious who you think they is. Like, do you think every woman
Well-
looks to Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion for their like
They don't have
guiding
to.
morals?
It's pervasive. It's everywhere. You put on reality TV, they're doing it. You put on the Kardashians, they're doing it. You put on music, they're talking about it. You put on rap music, they're talking about it. You put on it's all over. You put on even like, I don't know what it's called, the white people music where they're like playing, I don't know. It's all really sad. They're all depressed
Like
all
the
the time.
coffee house music
Stuff like that. They're
yeah.
talking about the same stuff, and so it's pervasive. Like when you are swimming in the water, you cannot see it, but it is once you start to see it, you see it everywhere, and it's pretty disgusting.
Well, I have a
This is
question.
super based, by the way. Go ahead.
My question is, what would be an effective counter movement? Because it seems like you're saying that women are being oppressed. So when a movement for women's actual liberation,
I
would
don't.
that be?
I think women are oppressing themselves. I think that's the best thing a demon can do is get you to hurt yourself and harm yourself.
So, yeah. So wouldn't we want to elevate women's conscious about that, like social conscious about that?
Yeah,
And what would be like in my opinion, I think feminism has changed over time.
Correct.
And I think
It's
it would
gotten
be
worse.
I think it would be a really effective movement to take back feminism, because I feel like you guys agree on a lot of the stuff about casual sex isn't beneficial for women, and an effective way to communicate that to women is to say, I'm a feminist. I actually want you to stand up for yourself. I want you to
Yeah. Well, in general, I don't like labels. Feminism, as it is, was constructed by the CIA with Gloria Steinem. She was in the CIA. It's very well documented. So I don't want to use a label like that. I think it's just too tainted. I, in general, don't really like labels. I don't ascribe to being a Democrat or a Republican. I think they're both pieces of shit most of the time. Sorry, I don't know if I could say that. But I think the more effective thing would be, I think you need to approach women with a tremendous amount of compassion.
Yeah, and I think women
and
respond.
education.
Oftentimes, women respond to
Absolutely.
feminism. So that's why.
they I don't know if they respond. I don't really think they're thinking most of the
But I
time.
mean, are you saying, well, if they don't respond to feminism, then how are they getting these messages that feminism is pushing, and how are they implementing that in their
so
lives?
infiltrated.
Well,
So they
no,
are
in the
listening.
comments.
So
no,
they
no,
are
no.
listening.
So no,
You're
no, no.
right.
Hold
I
on.
agree with you.
Hold on. I said I don't think they're thinking about it. A lot of times when things are advanced on many levels, we accept it without conscious thought. There's a difference between that. We'll just accept, like, oh, that's true. Like, for example, everybody thinks we should drink 8 glasses of water a day. We weren't doing that when we were in the wild. We were totally fine. Why is that now common knowledge? Well, I think it's because they put fluoride in the water and they want everybody getting enough of it. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Wait,
and
how
there
did
were-
we get to the fluoride thing?
Because I'll always tie something back to fluoride, dude. I think fluoride makes people passive,
Makes
and
you fat.
it makes you passive. It lowers your IQ, and it makes you unresistant to propaganda.
And now you said in your pre-show notes that you think that you kind of already touched on this, how promiscuity is a CIA psyop.
Correct. Psychological operation.
Yeah.
I think they did it to the men first with James Bond and presenting this guy as like superhero. Oh,
Wait,
look.
James Bond is a psyop?
Correct. James Bond is the psyop.
Yeah, if you know who wrote the James Bond novels, he was actually an intelligence officer.
There you
himself,
go.
so.
It's to make the intelligence agencies seem cool and like they're protecting you and they're the good guys. And then in addition to that, they threw in a sexual promiscuity angle for men so that men would think, oh, this is what I aspire to. Now, there are always have been men within the population. It's a small percentage who were promiscuous. They're geared that way. They're wired that way. They're also usually the most aggressive. We needed them to be fighters. However, that was not the preponderance of men who acted that way. Most men wanted to find a woman, wanted to cherish her, wanted to have children, wanted to provide for her.
Well, I still feel like that doesn't really answer what would be an effective way to combat that. I still don't know what that would be.
My thing that I think the effective way to combat that is, number one, to raise awareness so that women can understand what they're being presented with.
Well,
Correct.
wouldn't that be effective through feminism? That's my point.
Why would that be effective through feminism? Feminism is teaching the exact opposite.
Well, I'm saying you hijack the movement and you change it. The movement has changed so much through time that
What do you mean,
can
though?
just say,
What do you mean by hijack the movement? What should the new messaging of the new feminist movement be?
well, I mean, I think that we understand that the sexual revolution and women having casual sex, it's been painted as, as beneficial. So if you reframe it...
You understand that. And
Right,
you
so-
come from a Catholic background.
yes.
But you cannot think that that is what most women are thinking. They're
Right.
not thinking that at all.
Right, yeah. No, you're right. That's why I'm saying it would be more effective to communicate that through saying, I'm on your side, I feel like it's just not really very effective to communicate that through saying, feminism gives a really good framework for saying, I support women's liberation, and I think real women's liberation is...
Liberation from what?
From this, like, things like the sexual revolution.
Right.
Okay,
but
but what was the original goal? Like,
Sure,
what-
yeah. I mean, I can say...
When you ask a woman what's feminism liberating you from, she'll say the evil patriarchy.
Yeah, and
Right.
I mean, would you say that it's sort of a patriarchy that women are under, that men are using women for just, sex and no
I think
marriage
women
or
are
anything?
there's some women that are complicit in that. Like, for example, Gloria Steinem was part of that. Frankly, I think it's because she was ugly and nobody liked her, and then she wanted to go ahead and reduce other women to her competitive level because
Yeah.
she could never compete with a truly beautiful and intelligent woman.
I mean,
And
yeah.
so she decided to reduce everybody's worth by doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
So there's plenty of women, and I know older women who go through the feminist thing realize they're miserable. They're in their 40s, they're childless, they don't have kids, which I'm not saying every woman needs to do that, but a lot of women will realize that they've missed something, and then instead of owning to their mistakes and teaching younger girls to not go that way, they enroll them in
double
the
down.
same behavior, and that is evil. And I
Yeah.
don't think women should do that.
no, I
And
completely
I think
agree
taking
with
it
that.
out of an ideology of like, oh, it has to be feminism, it has to be some movement. Because I think if you really focus more on like an overall morality, and that can be your focus, but we don't want to do that, right? There's been a wave of we don't want a religion, right? Like America is getting
Yeah.
increasingly secularized.
Yes.
And so then when we want to create morals, we have to then hide behind a political ideology or like feminism or communism or an ism because we can't align to get our morals, because we can't align with a religious a religion. And so then everyone's confused, and so that's why it's like, oh, but now if I'm not a feminist, I'm anti-woman, and there's all this kind of weight behind either being a feminist or not being a feminist, and that's where, so now like politics has tried to take the role of what religion used to be in our society, and I think that's where it's getting so detrimental.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $200. Conspiracy Theory Girl, can we talk about Disney and the Princess Effect? How about Rockefeller and the public school system? So many control mechanisms. So little patriarchy.
I'm not familiar with Disney and the Princess Effect, but I am familiar with Rockefeller, the public school system, and the way they took over the medical system, and pretty much just they are advancing a lot of control mechanisms that way because they put people in schools and indoctrinate them from a young age with these thoughts. But the reason I don't think that it presents well to say I'm a feminist is because, number one, feminism already has such a clear meaning and definition for people.
Does it?
It really
Oh, it
doesn't.
does.
But based on what you guys say about feminism, it doesn't, because you say things that are completely at odds with what I hear actual people my age who are in college, what they think about it. It doesn't seem like you're really
What do people your age think about it, about feminism?
They don't think that it's a conspiracy being, like an antinatalist, satanic conspiracy.
They're uninformed.
I think you might have a little something going on. But, I think that's...
Listen,
right?
hold on.
No.
You got to qualify that statement a little bit.
She's calling me crazy, even though it's well documented that Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent.
I back you up, girl.
I think you have a little conspiracy-minded thing going on where you're looking for a conspiracy in everything.
No, I just am informed and educated, and I'm not arrogant enough to assume that my ignorance means that somebody else is crazy. But
I can also say I'm informed and educated, and we can go back and forth saying that forever.
Well, so do you know then that what she's saying about Gloria Steinem is not only correct, but that through the Congress for Cultural Freedom in the 60s and 70s, the CIA was pushing feminism through like 40 different publications around the world. They sent, people to festivals.
So what if Gloria Steinem was like a CIA operative? Gloria Steinem's not the only feminist in the world.
No, I'm saying it's not just her. I'm saying the Congress for Cultural Freedom, which was a widespread CIA program that went around the world in dozens of countries and had hundreds of magazines, newspaper outlets, all pushing feminism. This was not just like one lady. This was like a broad effort during the Cold War to kind of differentiate Western liberal values from Russia. So they pushed feminism and the sexual revolution.
Are you anti like classical liberalism and Western liberal values?
Am.
Okay,
yeah.
But you're also anti-communist. I'm very curious maybe that's off topic, but
you can be both.
You can be both communist and
you can be against communism and against Western liberalism.
I don't mean liberalism in like liberal versus
classical
conservative.
liberalism, which is the American founding.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm against that.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go for it.
I was just gonna say that I believe that you guys can be completely correct. Like everything you're saying is correct, and how feminism is a psyop. I'm saying psyop back. I feel like that's the best.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think I just disagree that would be the best way. That's all.
I just don't see a better route because I have personally, I have the same experience. I've never had any friends who are genuine like feminists who read literature say that they're pro casual sex and that it's really healthy for women to do that. I've never ever heard that ever.
Well, here's what you guys need to understand is that feminism is anything that pushes back against patriarchy and moves toward egalitarianism. So if you think the sexes are equal, we should all have equal rights, so we can get into rights and what you think that all means, but anybody who is saying patriarchy is bad is feminist, whether they identify or know that or not. So if you think that just like, we have to push for women to be equal with men and women have been historically oppressed, that's all feminism, whether you think it is or not.
Well, for like egalitarianism and stuff, from my understanding, you believe that egalitarianism means that men and women are just on equal planes? Or?
It means that they should have like equal rights and equality of, some people would say equality of outcome, some people would say equality of opportunity. Doesn't really
but it's on an
me.
Equality of outcome now, is what they mean by it.
Let me think. I have to think. I'm sorry.
I just don't think that you guys will ever successfully convince, or whatever movement or not movement you want to be a part of, will ever successfully convince the female population that they should not. At least
I agree with you, which is why.
Fight for what? Sorry, continue.
Fight for egalitarianism, whatever that means to them.
What is it that women don't have now? What is it that women don't have now that men have?
I'm not saying that there is an imbalance currently or is or isn't. I'm saying that I don't think
But do you understand the problem? We'll never be able to convince women to not fight for something that they already have.
If they already have it, then what about this problem you're talking about where women are allowing men to mistreat them?
Correct.
Because women, the rates of like depression among women are so unhappy, and it's gone like there's a direct correlation with levels of unhappiness of women documented.
Okay, so it sounds like women have something that men don't have, which you're claiming is not true.
But hold on a second. No, don't do that. You're shifting tides. First of all, you said that women that you'll never be able to stop. You'll never be able to convince women to stop fighting for equal rights. And I said, what is it that we don't have that men have in that department? Now, what she's pointing out is a consequence of that very fight, because the supposed it's a consequence of the feminism.
How can you say that? There's a ton of
correlates. Because it correlates directly with the rise of the movement.
But it also correlates with like it correlates with time passing. It correlates with a bunch of 9/11. You could blame it on
correlation
a bunch of
does not.
70s? Do you know what year 9/11 happened?
Well, you didn't mention the 70s. I'm saying you could. I'm saying you could literally point to any random event that happened throughout history and say, well, this is why women started becoming
You're
unhappy.
100% correct. The correlation does not equal causation. However, there is strong connection between these things that we see women who continue along the path that, so quote unquote, feminism would get you to. By the way, the extreme of feminism, because I did study feminism, is a lesbian separatist feminism in which they want to live on an island away from men, use them for their semen, only keep the female. I'm not kidding. This is a real thing. You guys can
I'm
look it up.
familiar with lesbian separatism.
You can look it up.
I'm familiar with
My
female
issue
separatism.
is, number one, I don't think men and women should be at each other's throats, and this goes for the right-wing movement too, which is a little bit of your podcast, where they set
We'll get into that.
they set men up to see women as these evil, like, manipulative creatures, and then women are set up to see men as these, like, evil, tyrannical, power-hungry creatures. How there are both of these things within the population. I've had experience with both of them. I'm not saying they don't exist, but however, to have a movement that continually tells women this is what they want from you sets us up to be unhappy, because I believe we are made to be in partnership with the other sex and not at war with them.
I think my problem with just what you're saying in general is I think we're diagnosing the same issue, but
Not McKin Money Offer Podcast donated $200. Please redirect the conversation to the left-hand corner of the table. I have a really high run on the number of likes for this show. Shut up, leptonic woman in black.
Make me, bitch.
anyway, so I was just saying, I think that we have the same, like, we're diagnosing the same problem. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure.
I'm saying that my problem is that I think that men are taking advantage of women via casual sex in the sexual revolution.
Correct. I also think men themselves are a victim of this propaganda.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I'm just saying I don't see an effective solution for it other than what I've proposed, and I don't see
which
you
is
giving
hijacking
one.
feminine. I did give one. I said I believe that we should approach women with compassion, raise their consciousness so they can truly understand the problem.
How? What would be the way to do that?
Well, this is one way. Education, speaking up.
They could read my book and find out the truth about how all of this went down, and that it wasn't this grassroots movement where women looked around in the 1800s and went, oh my God, we're oppressed. We have to march in the streets until we have voting rights and bank accounts. And that it was just this thing that's time had come, because it's complete bullshit. It's not true, and that's not how it happened. It was an astroturf movement from the beginning, from the 1700s, or even further back if you want to go there. So this idea that there is even such a thing as, like, oh, we can have women's rights and egalitarianism only at the behest of the men who are going to enforce it for you anyway.
Well,
so I think if you just get through to women about some of these things, it will help. But also, do we really want to, depend on turning the opinion of women toward how things ought to be?